what is the future for Gen Z finance and property? Can they still afford or not?
Yes, they can. How do they run their lives? So they have three priorities: a house, travel, and coffee.
They don't want to wait for a long time. They want like quick results. When they work towards it, what's your thought on
Didn't
that?
we start saying that life is too short?
What's the biggest misconception Gen Z has about owning a property?
I think it's not so much the Gen Z, it is what the market thinks that they can't do.
Hello and welcome everyone to the very first episode of Invest with Rishi, the podcast here. And today we're going to talk the very hottest topic in the town, and that is Gen Z and property investment and finance. Now, many people do say that it's becoming very difficult for Gen Z to buy a property or invest. But today we're going to talk more than that, how to have a proper finance setup, housing schemes from the government, and having a proper strategy. Gen Z is doing far more beyond than what everybody are thinking. But to unreveal all of it and give us more information on it, we have Madhu Chaudhary from Finance and Mortgage Solutions. Hey Madhu, how are you?
Thanks, Rishi, for inviting me, and wish you a very, very successful podcast series. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you'll bring to the table.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, before we start ahead, how's the day been today? Like you went for a women fundraising thing in the morning, and now you're here and doing your work. Come on, that's too much on your plate. How do you do it?
It's actually being mother of twins. I'm a mother of three girls, and I'm very passionate about the work I do, because I think most women my age did not have the role model of a working woman or women in business, and we didn't understand the word hustle. It did not exist in our generation. And to see the younger population and the younger generation do so many different things and not something only aligned to what they had studied is very, very heartwarming. They are Gen Z as a whole, generation is bringing enterprise and solo entrepreneurship at a very, very different level. I think by the time we finish this decade, we'll probably be talking at least 35 to 40% will be self-employed. So they love working for themselves. They always and always, you will hear the word side hustle. They love to take calculated risks to get ahead. So they're not as, careless as what we, older generations think they are to be. They run multiple income streams. They would do, so many different things in so many different places in the world. It's not location related. I think they take their skills with them wherever they go. They use the digital and visual channels to learn and transact. And their aim for home ownership is one of the highest in the market at the moment. So with the government schemes, people who are coming out of the woodworks are the Gen Z. They're trying every which way to make sure. I know somebody who's got 3 jobs, and they've been doing it not for 3 months or 6 months, but for years on together. And they love, doing all of those 3 jobs. They're keeping themselves busy, earning a lot of money, and at the same time, the side hustle is there to support their dreams of becoming a homeowner.
And they are from the Gen Z?
They are all Gen Zs. And staying at home longer and saving is also one of their biggest strengths. Yeah. They don't mind listening to mom and dad and taking out the garbage while they can stay at home.
So this morning you went for that women fundraising. How was it? More of Gen Z, or how was the group over there?
I think there was a lot of Gen Y there. These are it was a women's event for hosted by Scalare Partners. They're on the ASX. They are enabling a lot of these first startups to become financial. They are. We had Legal Vision, which is a business which is totally virtual and run by women. And so everybody out there in the room has got different brands. Somebody's focused on wellness, skincare. They're talking about even law, finance, and helping startups. They're all women in the room. And that was one. At 12 o'clock, there was a Women's Founders Forum meeting. And the lady who started that was a corporate Anne Rajaraman. And she has started this basically helping younger women. Not all of them are Gen Z, but they're talking about, trying to get some money to raise their fintechs and startups to take take them to a next level. So I think there's a lot of movement in the women's startup industry now in the last 1 to 2 years that I'm seeing, where women are heading their own businesses. They are the bosses and they have a vision which is enabling not only from being a part of a community, but also being connected to these financial hubs which are sprouting everywhere, at least in Sydney that I'm aware of.
I mean, you just said they are the bosses. Even if you didn't mention, they are still the bosses, be it Sydney or any part of this world. So, no, I highly respect that. Highly respect. So, I guess, so that's part of today's episode. We're highly going to talk about finance and mortgage, where Madhu is going to help us on that part about Gen Z. So, if you are born between 1997 and 2012, the show is for you. If you know somebody or you're helping your kids in that generation for finance and property, this show is for you. If you're not in this age group, the show is still for you if you're looking how help your generation. This is Rishi, your host from InvestVise Buyers Agency. And so, Madhu, I think let's straight away dig into it. What is the future for Gen Z finance and property? Can they still afford or not?
Yes, they can. Everything from the buy now, pay later is a big thing amongst the Gen Z because they cannot run and manage a credit card like our generations did not either. So they are actually staying away from those large purchases of credit cards, which limit their borrowing. They're also not buying big cars and taking big car loans. They are trying every which way to save a deposit, be it 5%. They are not taking on large liabilities. The only liability most of them have is the student debt. Yeah. Now government has taken the bank's help, and they've started using the student debt at 1%. So that is actually now become far more comfortable than being asked to pay off the student debt. So how do they run their lives? So they have 3 priorities: a house, travel, and coffee. That's their blueprint. They love, if somebody doesn't know, they don't go to bars and have late night and very big dinners. They go for morning coffee parties. So you take your cafe latte and you go and meet a community. They put on some nice music, not a very expensive place. There is no you sort of don't have to pay to get into those clubs or anything like that. And they also are doing exercises and morning walks. They're very health conscious. They eat right. The Hello Fresh, it seems to be one of those very, very big thing in most Gen Z households. They love having the fresh food brought in on a daily basis. So the house is almost 40 to 45%, which means that sharing plus saving for a house. The travel is also big on their priority. They love going for travel, be it intrepid tours or even just get in the car and drive up to Gold Coast from Sydney or anything like that. And then life and coffee, which means this is their rent, bills, groceries, coffee parties, and they seem to love apps. Everybody seems to have different apps for budgeting and investing. There's apps like Raise, which rounds off your dollar, and you save the money while you're not even looking at it and thinking. They're not into sacrificing their avocado toast or anything like that. I think they've understood the difference between saving and investing. You find that Gen Z are into crypto. I know one of my Gen Z clients, he was not saving. His girlfriend was saving money, but he was actually investing in crypto. And then when it went up, he blew it all up on a nice car which he wanted with no, borrowing on the car. So I think that Gen Z is looking at ways and means of not only investing, but investing in a timeline. What is the timeline? They don't want to wait for 20 years to actually get the things that they want. They want to enjoy the nice travel or the nice dinners once in a while to splurge, but they want things in a foreseeable future, within the next 3 years or 2 years. They're not thinking a decade ahead from now.
Yeah, because if I take a few years step back, not even a few years, I would say a few decades, the whole idea I would see of you've got a family, you have got a house, you've got a mortgage, and you're trying to finish that mortgage off and you're putting money towards your super, and you can travel, you're working towards your retirement. That was the very basic thing I could see over there. Yes, there were people investing, but it was not as much we can see in the past decade now. One thing I can see for Gen Z is they're definitely very app driven. They are very well connected more by internet. And that's what I can see. Like I've got my 10-year-old, and in the morning when he's having breakfast, rather than saying egg and bread, he say, Dad, make sure I have more protein and less of carb. And I'm looking at his face. You tell me what you want to eat. Yeah, Dad, just give me something that has more protein. So I can understand where that health thing is driving in him. The number of apps and how they're more tech savvy and they're more using it towards their advantage rather than becoming more a slave of it. So these are a few things I can see in my house itself.
I think that rent vesting was not a thing in our generation. Everybody was wanting to buy their first home and save every dollar and, buy wherever they can. And if people had children, they were like, I want to buy near a school. And they were deeply disappointed if they did not buy a house near the school. This generation is very, very, how should I say, wholesomely understanding investing. They're saying we do not want to sacrifice our morning cafe and going and meeting up with our friends for dinner on a Friday night. They're all rent vesting, so they do not place the highest importance on just having your own home. They've also understood that the first home is not your forever home, because they've seen that generation where their parents have actually moved houses. The house has become too small. They have to go from an apartment to a house, and from a house to a bigger house, and then they also have a generation coming and staying with them and they're caring for their parents. So I think the Gen Z is a very realistic, very practical generation in my book. And they are not giving up anything, really, when you think about it. They also are moving in different jobs every so often. If they don't get the raise in the single employer's capacity, they know their self-worth. And they're willing to upskill themselves.
Or is it more, I think they're more of impatient, I would say. Because if I compare them back to my generation or the generation after that, I'm just X, Y, and Z. So I find them they are kind of, they don't want to wait for a long time. They want like quick results. When they work towards it, what's your thought on
Didn't
that?
we start saying that life is too short and they take it literally?
Yeah.
I think that they understand that the time is what is not going to be repeated. Like what we are essentially telling is that their youth and their time now is more valuable to them than we placed on ourselves. So I would say that hopefully this generation, although they've started their youth during the COVID years where they did not socialize, they are kind of going to live very differently to how we lived. And I think patience, yes, is a virtue, but if they have found a hack like rent vesting, or they're buying properties with their friends, with other people, we did not think about that. We were like, no, we don't have 10%, so therefore we will keep waiting. So I think they're also finding smarter ways to go with less. So I would say that we should take a leaf out of their book.
Yeah. So I would say some of the strategies that I would say now, we can talk about rent vesting. Number two, we can talk about them collaborating with other people to buy an investment. And we have got some really great schemes from the government that really help them. Because what I can see is that earlier, our parents used to sacrifice either money or travel time. When I say money, means they would buy a house that's more closer to their place so that they can quickly travel and come back, spend time with the family. Or if they can't, then they will buy a house that's far away from their workplace, but then they have to sacrifice is time. The advantage that Gen Z is getting now is that they can work remotely, rent. They don't need to wait to buy a house and live in their own apartment. They can do rent vesting and work from home. And that also gives them the flexibility. They can travel and even work more remotely, like Bali or Thailand or wherever they feel like. That's some of the things I can say, because I feel when people say, we could afford a house, but your generation, I don't think so. You can afford a house. So maybe that's what I would like to ask you this question. What's the biggest misconception Gen Z has about owning a property?
I think it's not so much the Gen Z, it is what the market thinks that they can't do. I think, if you look at the Gen Zs, they are the ones who have got all these, mom and dad's guarantor loans, which were there even 10 years ago, but the uptake was not there. There's a huge uptake on that. And I think the parents have also understood that, helping them now is more important than ever. The owner occupier is later. They're not looking for that ideal home, which our generation really fussed about, that, this house is not really that good, and, this house should be like this and should be located like this. Whereas they know that the owner occupier house will come later. For them, it's just entry into the market. So they're okay. You hear people buying properties for 350, 400. If you're a single earner, that's all you can buy. They're happy to buy wherever. So I think that is the biggest misconception, that they're trying to buy the owner-occupied house. Some, yes, where there are people who are, working remotely. They're also not looking for large mortgages. They're looking for manageable mortgages. Like I said, 45% is their ideal money set aside to pay for a loan.
That's quite a lot. That's quite a high number, what I can see, because I was doing some data analysis, and I can see back in maybe 2022, out of the whole population of people who are buying houses, the first home buyers who are doing rent investors were approximately in the 4% average. But now 24, 25, that has moved to approximately 6.2%. And I won't be surprised, because the average age in Australia to buy a property was approximately 30 plus. That has shifted down, dropped in the 20s.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The biggest misconception is this is a very expensive market. This generation will totally miss out on homes. This generation is very focused, because they've also realized that, unlike some of the people that they might know who do not have a comfortable home at retirement, they don't sort of miscalculate the fact that getting into the market is vital. And a lot of them, they've started investing in crypto and shares, and ETFs is the biggest thing for this generation, which if you can't buy one Woolworth share, but you can buy an ETF. If you can't buy a whole, bundle of shares, then you can buy a basket of better shares. So I think this generation has understood the value of investing now. I think that is the key, which is the market is not thinking that they're doing, but they're doing very well behind the scenes. Everybody also manages to find 6 to 8 hours of other work, which is also giving them, say, 250 to 400 a week, which could be just the cost of their rent or the shared costs. They also they're not big on owning big homes and big cars. So they are happy with GoGet and Ubers and all. They're the biggest users of those kind of, what they consider, let's say, it's not a must-have, put it this way. They do need a travel, but they don't need their own car. They want to have a credit card, or they want to buy something big. They better, or they believe in planning. They have the buy now, pay later, so they can buy that Christmas gift to give to whoever, or buy them. They attend a lot of marriages, but they seem to manage to go and get things for every single event. They do not miss out on any birthdays or travel or clothes or anything. They're also very big on the, what do they call, vintage clothing. But it's all stylish, and it's not lack of design or lack of style. It's because they understand that every single thing that is created has taken energy and time. So they respect that a lot. So they're talking about carbon in the atmosphere. They're talking about things which are unseen by our previous generation. So they're giving value to that.
You just talked about credit card and buy now and pay later. Would these digital habits affect your borrowing capacity, or is it working in their favor?
I think it's working in their favor because most of when you think about a decade or plus before, credit cards were at least 6,000. Then you had these automated increased limits of 20,000 and 30,000, and in some cases people had actually run up the credit card to its limit. Most of the buy now pay later is like $6,000 to $10,000. Even if they do have it run up, they do understand that they have to bring it down. They love having the ability to shop online whenever, so they keep the buy now pay later limits lower than the limit. So I think it's something that they have learned to manage better than those credit cards with larger limits. They also love taking micro trips, which means they're spending money on discovering new places, meeting new people. They love what they call experience, and I think they may enjoy the first year of being out of their home, earning a bit of money, but very soon you'll find that by the second year of earning a wage or an income, they start thinking and seriously putting money aside. As what I've observed from the second or third year, they have $5,000 or $10,000 put away, which is very unique.
Two things I would like to understand: A, from a bank perspective, and B, from a broker perspective. Now, with your clients, you do see many of Gen Z clients.
We do.
They're coming up.
Yeah.
How are they different to the older generation?
They are very well researched. So when I'm talking to a Gen Z, they know that if they have got some vested shares, and if I say that, do you want to pay the HEX debt, they'll go, why should I? I've got this money saved, but I'm going to do travel next year. I'm not going to work. I'm going to pay 5%. There's a government scheme for paying 5%, and take me to a bank which will not make me pay my HEX debt. So they're not asking too many questions. They have done a lot of research. They know their capacity to borrow. There's so many online calculators, but they do want that advice, and they do want that understanding that we are taking them to the market's best option for them. So most of the Gen Zs who've come to me, some of them are my existing clients' children. They often know where they want to buy.
So you feel they are more balanced, they are more research.
They're more researched.
And when I say balance, it's not like, just keep on working to finish the mortgage, but they know where they're investing so that they can also live their life in a better way.
I think so, that they've got wider interests. They've got, they could be learning salsa dancing, and they could be a doctor. All those, the fun things in life are not lost on them. They really value that. They think about the earth. They don't think about themselves. They're very human in that sort of respect. I have a lot of respect for Gen Z. Maybe that graduation from the millennial to Gen Z has probably been faster due to COVID. I don't know, but they are definitely. I think they know what they want in life. Put it this way. This is one generation that I see very strongly focused on. That yes, I'm doing this restaurant job, but it's increasing my social skills. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for other skills other than money.
You know what? There's a very classic example I'd like to share. Like, just having a chat with my friend yesterday. So we always, after gym, we just catch up. And then he was talking about how his kid has just finished his graduation, and now he's getting a job as an internship. And he knows he's working with the government. He's getting X amount of package. And his dad said, if you go to Canberra or some other government, you'll get far more better. You're more worth than that.
Wow.
But he says, no, I don't want to go because I don't want to travel. I don't want to go and live in that city. And what I'm getting, I'm happy with that money. I can save and I can travel. So no, even if you're giving me double, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I was and then that's what I told to Hannah, and I was surprised, and thinking yeah, because what you think, what your perspective is 10 years, 20 years back, his perspective is different. And now the next generation will have a different perspective again. It's not that anybody is right or wrong, but that is how he takes his life. He wants to travel. He wants to.
Travel is a big thing for the Gen Z. And I think that's come out of the world becoming a smaller place, travel becoming affordable. And of course, we're very lucky in Australia. We as a country we are very well regarded and very well accepted around the globe. And we are a very friendly kind of people. So I think Gen Z has working rights across the globe. And of course, we talked about the hybrid. And staying in Bali and working would be probably my dream. The other very interesting thing that they have is they have actually analyzed the superannuation system. Gen Z is one of the few people who are actually managing their own super. Yeah, they're actually wanting to have a certain percentage where they've analyzed that the admin fee is giving me a return of 8%. And if I run my own portfolio, and they don't have much to invest, but a lot of them are taking keen interest on how much insurance they should have, how much investment return should be. They understand the inflation and how inflation reduces the net of income. So the superannuation, which is getting compounded for the next 3 decades or 4 decades for them, they want to start off with a minimum of a double-digit return, which means that they have understood the ETFs and the beta shares and the schemes that are there to actually help. The first home super saver scheme where they're putting the money in and getting the tax deduction before they buy their owner occupied. They've understood to not only work this system and what the government is offering, but to do it better. So actually, they're taking the tax deduction, putting the money in super, and they're running a certain percentage of it, under their own sort of stewardship of running their small portfolios and divesting into crypto.
Coming back to my second part of the question, when I talked about when you talk to Gen Z and how many of them as their clients and they're proactively coming up to you. But on the counter, when you go to the bank, do they treat Gen Z differently as people of the other generation when it comes to borrowing?
I think that the biggest change that I've seen with the banks is that if you said 10 years ago that this person had 2 jobs, they would not accept the second job as an income. They said it's not normal to have 2 jobs. So the Gen Z has taught them that you can have 3 jobs and you could be, doing dishes in a kitchen, and you could be a sort of business analyst during the week is quite acceptable, which is now something that the banks have had to accept. And now they do accept people doing diverse things, as a side hustle or a second job, which I think has, we had to argue that this person is actually not having childcare because the husband goes to the work during the day and the wife goes for a night shift and she's a nurse. I mean, we had to write pages and pages of, why the bank should actually accept it. Gen Z has changed that perception big time in the banks.
Of a thing, I would say it's more of advantage for Gen Z than the older generation, I would say. So it's rather making that comment that they have missed the boat is not a great comment for them. So with lots of changes happening in the market, like I could see in the 90s, we had interest rate around 10% and higher. Coming back to 2000, 2008, dropped to around 3, 4, 5%. 2018 was 1.89, where everybody was just going, they were on a binge buying of houses, and then hitting 23, now it's 6% over there and now dropping down again. So we can see all these interest rates that have gone up and come down. And definitely it was a challenge at that time to buy a property. But if I see a linear, it's pretty much the average is pretty much the same. But I can see people taking
Opportunities
a step out of their comfort zone as an opportunity, because see, one of the advantages I would say for Gen Z is they have more information and more data. If I compare that to 20 years back, me as a buyer's agent, when we talk to, like, a classic example is again a client of mine, bought a property, and now we bought a property for their daughter who is 22, and then now we are looking to buy a second property for their daughter. So we're growing their portfolio, and I can see a difference of a conversation when I'm talking to her dad and when I'm talking to her. The conversation totally changes.
They think it is possible. They're not that worried. They're not as scared as an older generation thinking, oh, my daughter will not be able to buy a property. I think that they have figured out that they will probably, in many cases, be happy to live, on a single income, be single, build up their portfolio. And the other thing, which is a very big positive, which I have seen, is that, for example, I know that you said you've moved from New Zealand. I know somebody who now lives in Melbourne, and he basically came when he just turned 30 in Australia. Before that, he'd spent all that time in New Zealand, and he came here with $10,000 and a degree in history and anthropology. But then he's become you know, he went to become a top deck tour in Europe, and now he's come back and he's basically become a financial planner. And that is very acceptable. You've got life skills, you've traveled the world, you've got this skill of, inviting different kinds of people into your life, into understanding whatever ticks them is fine. They are less judgmental on what you did before and what you should be doing. They're okay with whatever you're doing. You want to just mix drinks and that makes you happy. That's all good, and people will take advice from even someone like that, who's been a tour operator, and he's become a financial planner. So whatever they're doing well. So I think from 1st of October, we are doing this in the end of September, the recording. There's a huge change in the market, and there's a huge, how should I say, a feeling of happiness. Government has lifted the limits on their income, lifted the limits on the purchase price for a first-home buyer. And I think it's also in combination with people who do hybrid work. I know a couple who's moving to Melbourne, and the husband will fly in once a month to Sydney to meet his employer. So those possibilities that have opened up into the market, with the employers also allowing people to move to a more affordable, place like Melbourne, and keeping their jobs, is actually a big thing for home ownership. And as a country, I think we would end up with a lot more people in home ownership in the next 12 months than we've had in the last 2 years.
Now, with the different type of clients you have, and now with Gen Z that are getting more into the property industry, getting more hotspots to buy, do you see them, do they need research, that they're doing it themselves, or they need help from consultants? Do you have that conversation with them? Do they ask from you? How is the flow over there when it comes to buying?
I think they are very value first. So I think they are going to pay a very small premium for ethics, but only if the math stack up and the proof is clear. So if you are actually adding value to them, which you can actually demonstrate, because they're digital natives, so they understand the economics has to be proven and transparent, and they are friction intolerant. So if you have to show them proof that this is what we are doing and this is why we are charging what we are charging, they're actually happy to do that, to take that opportunity to take advice and pay for the advice. I mean, look at this upsurge of buyer's agent in the market. They understand that they're not the best person to understand different kinds of property, different kinds of location. And while they do Google and do Chat GPT, but they also understand that Chat GPT is not going to give them the best results. It's the experience and firmly the ground level reality of understanding the market lies with the older generation.
Definitely, there's a phrase over here that comes what we call horses for courses, which means that back in the old days where my dad would be a doctor also for me, and we go, all right, eat this, you'll get better, do this, and that's how you get better in sports and everything. But I think now everyone is so specialized in their work, is that if you are doing mortgage broking, then again, also you have very specialized field in them, residential, commercial, asset. But I think with when you have so much experience, you can really guide the person over there. Similarly, when you want to go into different trades and what you're trying to do, you become very specialized in that job, or you become a jack of all trades, which is not adding value. And when you say value, you're investing at least $500,000 over here. So either you could be very thorough in your research, you're backed up with a great experience from your family or from your fellow friends, or you have some really great team of consultants with you. If you have either of these things, then you're a safe investor. Why I say that? Because it's Gen Z. They do a lot of research. They're very digital natives. They're value driven. They do a side hustle. I always say that immediate versus patience. They're not much patient, but then they have a lot of experience with their friends, with their families who have at least done some investment.
They do value that, and I think
Absolutely.
that's one person who understands that paying for a buyer's agent is actually valuable for the end product that they actually end up with. So while they can do the numbers, that they understand there's still that X factor in any transaction in life where you do go to someone who's a little bit more experienced. So you can be a saver and you need your every dollar to be stretching, and but then you want your solar panels and you want your electricity bills to be reduced. So keeping everything in mind, what they're looking for is value driven, and they also want a positive outcome by looking at various permutation combination and see which one applies and where they're getting the max bang for their buck. They do not let that go out of the draw. So I think they're looking for also the personalization. They're looking for that if my mom and dad were to give me money, what should I do? Should I pay off my HEX debt, or should I pay that as a deposit and buy 2 properties? That is a question they will ask and ask their advisor or their mortgage broker or other people that they value, who have done and built a successful portfolio for themselves. But one thing, and I would love to actually talk about, is subscription. They want access to a lot of data, and they're happy to subscribe to that. And I think that is something, how they consume knowledge, is they will subscribe to certain things, they will read about it, they will feel that, yes, I understand that, these are the different rainforests in the world, and this is the one where I want to go to, and then they will unsubscribe. But they will give it enough time to learn from that subscription model. So that is one very, very powerful thing, that they're constantly learning.
Definitely, I said it's always important to have an SME or a consultant or at least research, because what I realized during COVID, the very basic thing, I didn't have a proper haircut. And after COVID, the most busiest business having queue outside were barbers. And I could quickly realize that.
And people looked horrible on Zoom, especially in Melbourne, I remember.
I could remember that one. And for me, I'm just looking at a mirror and then asking my wife to cut my hair. But then after COVID, I could see how they all ran to the barbers. So it's definitely, it's very important that, if you don't want to do a costly mistake, then you should talk to somebody who's experienced in your field, like a broker, a financial planner, accountant, or a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And I think they want to see what it is like to actually own something. Like, they definitely don't want to own a car and keep on paying for 5 years or something like that. So that they're happy to belong to a certain club where they can subscribe to this, that, and the other, and use the free gym or the free cafe latte. But they'll do it for a while till they realize that out of everything, I just like the cafe down the road. I don't need this subscription. So that is something that they will constantly be looking for. They're looking for value in the marketplace. So in summing up, they are a very exciting generation, and they keep going from working to being quiet, looking after their health and all that. So they may say, you know what, I'm going to take 3 months off, switch off and go. But surprisingly, they have the money for the 3 months that they've squirreled away.
So I definitely see I would say some of the advantages that Gen Z has is that they have a lot of access to data and information. They can go to have paid and subscription if they want to, like CoreLogic and SQM, the free ones and the one. The other thing is the flexibility of travel, that is working from home or remote working, so they don't need to buy a house where they're working. Other thing is rent vesting. They don't need to buy a property in a capital city, especially in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, where they are, and they can't afford it with a big mortgage. In fact, they can share where their living space as they've been done, but
They love having pizza nights in those share homes.
Absolutely, that's a rent investing. I miss my old days when I was sharing my room in the college and also. I mean, that's different. But when I moved to New Zealand, I remember that was one of the best days of my life, I would say. So I still remember that, and I would say most important thing is, I would say, is they have more greater amount of professionals, consultants, and SME that they have around them to talk to gather information from them, to gather help from them, and then they can take a step ahead.
I think they, as a generation, are very careful. And because they're value driven, they want to own things when they're ready, and flex until then.
No, thank you very much. Anything else you would like to add for our Gen Z from a finance? Because see, if you are in Gen Z or you're not a Gen Z, but you're looking how finance can help you, how these new government schemes can be of help for you, but there are many more schemes that are not talked about, but an experienced person can talk about them. Please have a chat with Madhu. Anything else you would like to share?
I'm very easily found. I do post very regularly on LinkedIn, and I'm very passionate about everybody having a roof over their head, and that is can start as an investment, but as you get older, it becomes more and more valuable. It'll give you good health, sense of security, and more importantly, a self of wellness and belonging to a community.
And see, there's a very old saying from Warren Buffett is that if you're in a job where you're sleeping and you're not earning, you're in the wrong profession. So definitely properties are one of that, and we can see Gen Z are into that. If you're looking to talk about property, about investment, forget about buying or owning, how property can help you, why is it, how investment has been helping for other people.
And I'm a big believer in crypto as an asset, and I think that crypto as an asset should be recognized more and more for the value what it brings. And in a world which seems to be very unstable sometimes, crypto as an asset should actually grow. In my view, Gen Z are doing the right thing by having some percentage of their money kept aside for digital assets.
I'm sure if Donald Trump hears this podcast, he would be really happy and he'll be calling you for that. But see, definitely, that's why I tell my clients, do not have all your eggs in one basket. That refers to two things over here. Number one, when I say if you're doing property, just don't buy in only one region. And if you're investing, don't only invest only in property. You've got shares, you've got crypto, you've got property, gold, metals. There are different ways of investing. So that's how you can go here. But it's very important having a property portfolio strategy session, understanding what your end goal is, and reverse engineer from there. So yeah, if you want to talk about property, you can find myself, Rishi, on InvestVise. Just DM me or give me a call. And if anything regarding finance, we have a very learned person over here, Madhu. And thanks a lot for listening to this show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and please get in touch with any questions.